One of my favorite techniques of dimes was those squeals that you heard there in the beginning. So I remember first hearing this stuff in the 90s. I was introduced to Pantera probably around the age of 14 or so, hanging out with a few older metalheads, listening to Cowboys from Hell, watching the Pantera videos. And I remember hearing this stuff and being amazed. And I had just started playing guitar. So it took me a while to get a guitar that was equipped with the Floyd Rose and whatnot before I could start doing it. But I always found it really amazing the way he took like the natural harmonics, building off what Eddie was doing with stuff like this, and then he just takes it to a whole new level, and he does it musically, everywhere he uses it, which is great because you can certainly make the stuff sound like a lot of noise. But you heard my best kind of attempt there in the beginning, so I had this is my core kind of Pantera tone I dialed in a while ago. So I dialed that in a while ago. I was trying to follow like the signal path of the Cowboys from Hell album. So I got a parametric EQ in there. I got noise gates, a bunch of different stuff trying to emulate that sound. But this is what I got dialed in. But for those squeals in the beginning, I had a few other things on as well. So my understanding is that Dime would turn on his wah and leave it cocked up when he was doing these squeals, and that gave him a real crazy boost in the mid-range. And gave him a lot more sustain on those. So I don't have that right here. What I do have is I have a compressor. I got the sustain kind of pretty high, sustain about 2 o'clock. So that's going to give me a lot more level going into my digital amp here on the HX Stomp. And I also have a pedal EQ where I've taken the 500 megahertz frequency and just jacked out all the way to the top. So it's more or less trying to mimic that cocked wah sound with that 500 hertz jacked. So you heard my core tone here. I'm going to go turn those other things on. The other thing I have is those delays going on in my other Stomp. So I just put those on because that's, trying to go for the feel of, let's say, Cemetery Gates with those squeals. He's got those nice delays and stuff going on. So I tried to imitate that. But I'll go turn this other stuff on. We'll hear what it sounds like again, and I'll talk about how we do it. Alright, so now I got engage that compressor again with the sustain high. The level's at 12 o'clock. I have that pedal EQ with the 500 megahertz all the way up. And now I've got my delays on. 2 different delays in my second Stomp. And that's running into my little Behringer audio interface here. But as you can see, there's a lot more signal here and a lot more sound. So when we do the squeals, we have a lot of sustain there. So that's what I was going for between the compressor, my pedal EQ, just for the sustain there, and then I added the delays for the, for the sound effect. But what I'm doing there is I'm dumping the bar, plucking the G string, and then I'm trying to catch one of the high harmonics, usually between the 3rd and 2nd, and a little bit between the 2nd and 1st fret. The more typical ones are on 5 and 4. But once you get going between 3 and then 2, you get those great high ones, which, kind of Dime is famous for. So, that's how you get them. And what you got to do on the way up is lightly touch where you want the harmonic. You're going to have to practice it and you'll get a feel for exactly where they are. But what you want to do while you're doing that is mute. So if you look at my hand position here, so I'm muting the top 3 strings with my thumb. And I'm muting the bottom 2 strings with my, right now, my middle finger and my ring finger. And I'm only letting the that G string ring out. So that's important because if you let other strings ring out, it's going to just sound noisy and messy. So you want to make sure that you're muting all the other strings. If you watch Dime do it, this is pretty much similar to how he would have his hand. because it makes sense. I mean, you can hit all 5 strings and you can still control that middle string if you need to. But the key there is on top of my standard tone, again, just adding that extra sustain. Other cool things you can do is if you can manage to catch the harmonic on both the G and B string, like let's say a high one on the 3. So if you can catch them both, you hear that play on the way down. That sounds pretty cool. You can catch it in a certain spot. You can make even greater sound effects than what Don was typically doing if you start adding more than one string, because they sound cool on the way down as you're dumping the bar. They're going down at different rates, so it's all still making a bunch of crazy noise on the way down. But that's pretty much it. You want to make sure that you have enough gain. His rig on, let's say, Cowboys was gain through the roof, so he didn't really have to do anything. I don't know if he used a compressor. He might have on something like Cemetery Gates just to get all that extra sustain on something like that on the record, but I don't know that he ever did anything like that live. But I'm sure he would use his wah trick to get the extra sustain live. But in this case, I'm in a digital realm. My tone is coming from an HX Stomp, and I'm just using, if I had to, I could use a compressor in the Stomp and even a pedal EQ if I had to. In this case, I'm using my outboard one just because it's there on the board. So those are the key things. If you don't have a wah pedal and you want to try and imitate that, if you have a pedal EQ, just crank up that 500 or whatever center frequency it is and leave everything else as is, and you kind of get that cocked wah sound. So give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, I've always loved the technique since I was a kid, and it's just one of his fun things, and something he's known for, and he'll always be known for that. So have a good night.